Hey team, Jen here. I am coming to you at the top of week 4, and I come with some good news. Week 4 is, I think, a little bit lighter than some of the previous weeks in terms of the writing that is expected from you. At the same time, it's a little bit heavier in terms of the reading. In terms of the content of the reading, can be pretty heavy and dark and definitely a lot to problematize in this week's set of readings. This week we read Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye as our main text, and then we have a number of supplemental texts as well from a wide range of authors in the American canon who are thought of to present to represent the voices of what has been classically considered as underrepresented um, uh, peoples, uh, philosophies, approaches in American history. So we'll be looking at some Silko, some Gilman, um, some Giovanni, some Douglas, and these readings should be sort of synthesized together to help us to see the bigger picture of issues of race and gender and discrimination and conquest that were emerging in America in the 19th and 20th centuries. So I wanted to start today by reflecting a bit on week 3, and particularly I want to take a look at those topic ideas, those ungraded topic ideas that you submitted last week. So I'll start there. So generally, I was really pleased to see that students were mostly taking this topic idea seriously. The topic ideas that were constructed wholeheartedly and with as much specificity as possible, those are the topic ideas that are going to be most handy for next week's deliverable, the proposal. So if you are a student who really did provide a lot of detail and perhaps posed a lot of questions, I saw a lot of you doing that, I think those will be the most fruitful ones that you can use as a platform. So generally speaking, when it comes to proposing a topic, I've articulated for several weeks now the differences between writing a topic and writing in a context. What we want to aim for as graduate students is writing contexts rather than topics. But in order to really formulate a context that is unique, one of a kind, refined, critical, really interesting, we have to start with a very broad, general, boring topic. And I say it that way to be harsh and to be in your face about it because you don't want to write a paper on a topic as a graduate student. You just don't. You always want to write your paper on a context. So almost all students did write their ideas about a topic, about something that's broad and general and open-ended and not refined and something that anybody could write about. That's okay to do as a first step. But keep in mind that when you move toward the proposal for next week, due in week 5, I have to see that you're writing about a context rather than a topic. Um, if you have questions about what I mean by the differences between a topic and a context, you can go back to a supplementary video that I posted in a previous week where I include an overview video about the powers and pleasures of context. And I give you some insights into how to do that. In that previous announcement, I also included a file that has examples from my own writing of examples of context. So that should give you a really, really crisp sense about what exactly I'm looking for. And if you want more examples, all you have to do is look at a published essay in the humanities. Go to the Shapiro Library, do a web search in the library for peer-reviewed articles on any topic that you want, and take a look at how authors don't write about topics. They write about contexts. So that's what I want you to start to do as you move forward. Now, I realize that even in week 5, we're only halfway through the course, and you shouldn't have a very clear sense about what you're writing about. Your inquiry at this point should be driven by your personal interest, your personal stakes, and your personal investment in American literature. Now, some of you might have found yourself really drawn to particular texts that we've read so far in our first 4 weeks. And if that's the case, then you might want to bring in some of those texts as either the primary focus or as supplementary text to be synthesized with your primary text. But others of you maybe have not connected yet with any of the text, and that's okay. It could be a future coming text that will play the major role in your essay. And if that's the case for you, you might not be able to make very specific observations about the primary text because you haven't yet decided what that is. But a context doesn't always have to center around a primary text in the preliminary stage, right? A context can be really made up of the problems and the tensions and the ideas, the philosophies, and the concepts that you find most intriguing, something unique that you can bring to some of those issues, and you want to try to illuminate that. So my reflection, in short, on your topic ideas from last week is that they were truly topics and that they need to be contexts by the time you get to week 5. So if you have some questions about that, or if you have anxieties or concerns, feel free to come to my online office hours. If a time there doesn't work for you, suggest an alternative time. I'm so thrilled to chat with you about your ideas. I am a context master. So I do a very, very good job at helping students to take their ideas that are vague and they're not quite sure and they're lacking confidence and transforming that into something very substantial that you can feel confident with. So take me up on that and check it out for yourself. I can really help you with that. The next thing that I want to talk about is I want to give you some insights into how you might read The Bluest Eye by talking about how I read The Bluest Eye. I am a huge Morrison fan. I've read all of her novels, including her very most recent one that came out here in 2015. And she is one of my favorite American authors. I really appreciate her ability to peel back the layers of American society. And in The Bluest Eye, it's a tough read. If you are an emotional reader, as I am, you're going to have a tough time with this novel probably because she's talking about really heavy issues like child abuse and sexual abuse and racial issues. And when you meet Pecola Breedlove, the protagonist of The Bluest Eye, you're going to cry for her most likely. And I want you to kind of be aware that there's a lot of things that might trigger readers in The Bluest Eye. It's a tough text to read. And let yourself feel that. If you find yourself feeling emotions as you read Morrison, I invite you to let yourself feel those emotions because that's a part of her approach as an author is to connect to her readers' pathos. So if you're feeling that way, let yourself feel that way and consider that as part of your close reading practice. One thing that always stands out to me when I read The Bluest Eye is the theme of doppelgangers. Now, this isn't a very usual way to read the text, I think, but it's something that I can never get out of my mind, is this idea of the doppelganger through history. Now, I really always tend to look for horror aspects in text. And the monstrous, right? So the doppelganger has a long history, and I think of Hegel's philosophy of the Lord and the bondsman. I don't know if you're familiar with his philosophy, but that's always what I come back to when I read The Bluest Eye. So you might look into that if you find yourself interested in something similar. I also think about W.E.B. Du Bois's writing of our spiritual strivings, and he writes there about a kind of polarity or dichotomy in the African American community. And I think that it's so relevant and it applies so much to Pecola's precarious situation in The Bluest Eye. And I'm really interested to know what kind of context you pull out of this novel, besides the ones that are obvious, right? What touches you? What jogs your memory or your mind about connections that you can make between what Morrison talks about in this novel and things that you notice from the world around you? So I'm interested to know that. The third thing I want to talk about today is the importance of synthesizing the primary text with the supplementary readings. So this week we have a number of supplementary readings that are amazing, absolutely amazing. Silko, one of my favorite female Native American writers. She is so powerful. There's a collection of short stories of hers called Yellow Woman, which if you like the taste of Silko that you get this week, why not pick up her book Yellow Woman? It's amazing. Um, and Charlotte Perkins Gilman, I mean, come on, The Yellow Wallpaper, what a great investigation of that line between hysteria and the kind of the angel in the house Victorian concept of the woman's position in society. So there's a lot of investigations going on this week with our supplementary readings that can help us to intensify how we read Morrison. So this week I'd like to call on you to pull in um, supplementary readings to help to illuminate what you find most relevant and interesting about Morrison's work. So I want to see you start to practice the art of synthesis this week. Synthesis is such a key move in academic writing. You'll notice that most academics, when they're writing, almost every paragraph has at least some synthesis with other texts. So how you put a primary text into communication with other texts. Keep in mind that a text can be anything that you read meaning into: a film, a body, a poster, a novel, a book, whatever. I guess a novel and a book could be the same or they could be different. Okay, you get the idea. So I want to see you start to synthesize this week in your discussion board post. You only have the readings and the discussion board post due this week, so let your context shine in that discussion board forum. The final thing I want to talk about is your deliverable for week 5. It's a big one, and I do include some oversight in my written out announcement that goes with this video with a lot of examples for you to look at. Look at those examples and make sure that you understand the subgenres of writing academic proposals and annotated bibliographies. As a graduate student, it's so important that you conform to the very specific subgenre, because proposals and annotated bibliographies are genres you're going to be asked to write as you go forth as an academic beyond university. So when you're applying to present your paper on a panel at the MLA, or when you're proposing to your first book, or when you are writing to a peer-reviewed journal telling them about your ideas for a forthcoming essay and asking if they would be interested in what you're writing about, it's very important that you understand the hallmarks of this genre and that you're able to articulate it clearly so that you're taken seriously. So take a look at those examples, study what these genres do, right? It's very important that you get it right. You can use the rubric. There's an example there. I've provided 8 alternative examples for you to look at. And if you feel like after all of that, you still aren't quite sure what your proposal should do, please come to my online office hours. I need your proposal to be academic, scholarly, clear. It needs to actually help you to move forward. It can't be bare bones. It can't be an outline. It's got to be substantial. Now, keep in mind that proposal ideas ought to change. They ought to evolve as you go on. Students who end the semester with the same ideas with which they began the semester scare me, right? Those students are not showing perhaps the kind of growth that we ought to show. I think a lot of academics, even after their books are published, they're constantly going back and rethinking and reimagining and wanting to revise that. So the academic genre should be alive, right? And you should constantly be revising and rethinking and reforming your articulations of your ideas. So a proposal isn't an end-all be-all, right? It's just a burst of inspiration. It's a starting point. It's a blooming idea. And you want to unpack that idea as much as you can. Try to make it come alive. Try to make it real. Okay, so I hope that that gives you some practical insights into how you can approach the deliverables this week. As always, I am here to support you, and I hope you guys have a great week. See you next time.